Today we're going to look at more difficult equations than a simple two-step equation. We have an equation where you have four terms. We have 1/4 x minus 6 equals 3x minus 9. And what makes this most difficult for most students is the fact that we have a 1/4 x, a rational expression, and it's hard to deal with fractions if you don't remember all your fraction rules from elementary school, let's say. So something we can do is actually just choose a value that we know that if we multiply both sides of the equation by, it would get rid of the denominator in any expression that is a fraction. So more specifically, what I'm going to do, I'm going to group up my left terms and my right terms, and I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by the same value, has to be the same value, and the value I'm going to choose is 4. And if you're not quite sure where the 4 is coming from, on the left here, if you notice, I'm going to distribute this 4, and when I multiply 4 times a fourth, 4 divided by 4 will make 1, and I will no longer have a rational or a fraction expression. So on the left here, I'm going to distribute a 4. So 4 times a fourth is 1, like I said, so this would be a 1x. 4 times negative 6 would be negative 24. And on the right side, I put the 4 on the right side of the expression. Doesn't really matter. I can distribute from this side. So 4 times 3x is a 12x term. And 4 times negative 9 is negative 36. So even though some of the values, some of the numbers we're working with got bigger, the nice thing is we don't have to deal with a 1/4 x. We're now just dealing with integer factors, no more 1/4. From here, this is a standard equation with using adding or subtracting or possibly multiplication division to solve for x. So my next step, to get rid of the 1x term from the left side of the equation, I can subtract it. And whatever term I'd like to subtract from the left-hand side, we also have to subtract from the right-hand side. And I line up my terms where I know they're going to combine, right? X's with x's on the left will combine, x's with x's on the right will combine. So 1x minus 1x is gone. We have negative 24 equals 11x minus 36. So I have all my x terms grouped on the right side of the equation. It doesn't matter which side I choose. So I group them all on the right side. And what I need to do now is isolate my x term. So I'm going to move the negative 36 by adding 36, the opposite. So if you add 36, those will cancel, right? Negative 36 plus 36 will disappear. But I also need to add it to the left side of the equation, right? Whatever I add to one side of the equation, we must add to the other. So negative 36 plus 36 is gone. And negative 24 plus 36 is 12. And what I have is an equation that says 12 equals 11x. And in case you don't recall what 11x means, it means 11 times x. So the inverse operation of multiplying by 11 is dividing by 11. This isn't the nicest answer to work with, but here's my final solution. We can say 12 over 11 equals x. Or if you don't like having your x on the right side of the equation, we can also rewrite this as x equals 12 over 11. And depending on the course you're in, you'd probably leave your answer as a fraction. You probably wouldn't change this to a decimal, possibly a mixed number, but 12 over 11 is the correct answer in any way you'd like to write it. Let's look at another example. So we have the equation 3 times the quantity 4x minus 1 on the left side of the equation equals 4 minus 6 times the quantity x minus 3. Now, in all my years of teaching, it's very common to see students try to deal with 4 minus 6 first, right? They see that as subtraction. Subtraction's easy. They'd want to do easiest operations first. The problem with that thinking is you're kind of ignoring what you might have learned, what's called order of operations. So in order of operations, we deal with what's called the parentheses first, or groups, and then exponents, right? Multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So where this comes in is you can't subtract 4 minus 6 if there's another operation that comes before it. And you might be thinking, well, what other operations are happening in this equation? Well, if you look inside the parentheses, you can't do anything with these terms, right? 4x minus 1 is 4x minus 1. There's nothing to simplify. And x minus 3 is simplified. So there's nothing to do inside the parentheses. However, there's an operation happening around the parentheses, which is multiplication, right? The distributive property is using multiplication. So on the left side, let's go ahead and distribute the 3 to the 4x minus 1. And we would have 12x minus 3 equals. Now, you have to be careful here. The 4 is not part of this negative 6 operation that's about to happen. What's going to happen is this negative 6, that's the sign of this 6, is going to distribute into this quantity or this group, x minus 3. So be careful here. This is negative 6 times x, which is negative 6x. And then negative 6 times a negative 3 would make positive 18. As you can see, I did my distribution on the left side of the equation in red to kind of show my multiplication there. And then I grouped up my multiplication in green to show that what's affecting the negative 6 distribution is in green, and that 4 hasn't played into the equation yet. It's just kind of there waiting for all the other operations to take place. Now that we've gotten rid of distribution, now we can take into account any other addition or subtraction I'd like to try to use to simplify what I have. So what I can do from here is I can group up, right? I have a 4 on the right side of the equation plus 18. So I can combine those, and I can take the sum of those, and that is 22. But I still have the minus 6x, right? And on the left side, let's not touch anything. We have 12x minus 3. So from here, I just have to move terms around to isolate all my x terms on one side and then my non-x terms on the other side. So next thing I want to take care of is I'm going to add 6x to both sides, because I would like to move my x terms from the right side to group up with the terms of x on the left side. So what I like to try to do is I try to keep my x terms positive. Doesn't really matter. I could have subtracted 12x from both sides, but I went ahead and added 6x so that my x terms on the left remain a positive term. So we have 18x. The minus 3 is still a minus 3. And nothing happened to my 22. And the negative 6x plus a 6x will remove itself from the right side of the equation. From here, I can move my negative 3 term by adding it to both sides. So by adding 3 to the left side of the equation, negative 3 plus 3 is 0. And I have 18x equals 22 plus 23 is 25. And if you're kind of thinking ahead, yes, we have another solution that's not the nicest kind of number, but it's still a number. It can still be a solution. If this is 18 times x, the inverse operation of multiplying by 18 is divide by 18. And if you divide by 18 on both sides, 18 divided by 18 is 1, so 1x, we'll just write x equals 25 over 18. So there's a few extra examples of solving equations. Hope it helps.